Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. This audio lecture is about the gross anatomy of the nervous system. Okay, these are all the objectives of this lecture. I hope at the end of this lecture, you will be able to discuss the organization of the nervous system, the components of the central and peripheral nervous system, list the function of the nervous system, recognize the components of the brain and spinal cords in a given model, specimen, or diagram. Later, it's important for the OSP, and describe the basic nuclei and a bit about the anatomy of the limbic system. Well, just to remind you that this is just an introduction lecture. There will be another lecture which will touching every single details of the nervous system, which will be given by other lecture. Okay. Okay, what is nervous system in the first place? The nervous system is a complex networks of nerves and cells that carry messages to and from the brain and spinal cord to various parts of the body. The functional unit of the nervous system is neuron. Okay, these are all the general function of nervous system. The main coordinator for all activities of the body. Everything is like our CPU. The brain is the CPU for human being. So the nervous system enables the body to respond and adapt to internal and external changes. How is the communication occur in the nervous system? The system communicates with each other at synapse. Okay, this is the synapse connection between two neighboring neurons, okay, which can be either through electrical signals or chemical signals. So electrical signals is called the electrical synapse, where the action potential or the impulse is actually generated by the transmission of ions between pre and post neuron. And well, for the chemical synapse, it involved the release of the chemical called the neurotransmitter. Okay, the division of nervous system based on anatomy, they are divided into the central and peripheral nervous system. And they can be, for the central, there is brain and spinal cord. In peripheral, there is cranial and spinal nerve. Well, functionally, the nervous system can be divided into somatic, which is voluntary movement, and autonomic nervous system, which is involuntary. For autonomic nervous system, there is parasympathetic and sympathetic. You will have another lecture regarding these two, the autonomic nervous system later. So just in brief, okay, autonomic nervous system involves sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. In sympathetic response, it is important for fight or flight actions. So this is easier for you to memorize. So S, sympathetic, S is stress. So what happens when you stress, you will fight or flight. So that is sympathetic response. For parasympathetic, mean peace, okay? So what happens in parasympathetic response? It will be rest and digest kind of response. Okay, these are all the response when parasympathetic or sympathetic system is activated. When parasympathetic, the pupils will constrict, the salivation stimulates, because remember, parasympathetic is involved in digestion. So in digestion, salivation is really, really important for the respiratory. It will cause constriction of the airways, slow heartbeat, stimulate digestion, and all activity related to digestion. And then, while for sympathetics is the other way around, okay? Okay, for peripheral nervous system, there are cranial and spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are the nerves that emerge directly from the brain. So we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and spinal nerves are the nerves that emerge from the spinal cord. So cranial and spinal nerves are peripheral nervous system. These are all the cranial nerve that you have to memorize. Okay, you have to memorize the cranial nerve. By hook or by crook, you have to know what is the first cranial nerve called, what is the function, what is the motor or sensory activation of the first cranial nerve, until all the cranial nerves you have to memorize. Okay, you have to know this cranial nerve. Well, you will learn this later in another lecture by other lecturer regarding the cranial nerves. And then you have spinal nerve. Okay, the spinal nerve coming out directly from the spinal cord. Okay, there are cervical, spinal nerve, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and they are named based on the segment of the spinal cord. So like C1 to C2 is a pylonic muscle. The spinal nerve, C4, this is the diaphragm, and all that up until the sacral. And the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. Let me go to the central nervous system. Okay, the central nervous system are called central because they integrates and receive information and coordinates and influences the activity of all parts of the body. So the central nervous system are very well enclosed within a skull, within skulls in the vertebral column. The central nervous system functions is integrating the information from peripheral nervous system and influence the activity of the all part of the body. So neurons of the central nervous system are mainly neuron types of neuron. Okay, and while the peripheral can be sensory or motor neuron. These are the major parts of the brain. Okay, anatomically, there are 4 parts of the brain: the cerebrum. Okay, this one is cerebrum, the diencephalon, the brainstem, and the cerebellum. So these are all the cerebrum, the diencephalon, the brainstem. Brainstem is this part over here, and the cerebellum. And they also differentiate based on the embryological derivative. Okay, like for forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, forebrain, cerebrum, thalamus, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland, while the midbrain. So the pituitary gland is very special. Okay, I think you know this. You learn this in your endocrine. Okay, and then you have midbrain. Midbrain is just the midbrain part of the brainstem, and hindbrain consists of pons, medulla oblongata, and the cerebellum. So as I mentioned, this is how they differentiate different part of brain based on the embryological brain region. Okay, a little bit about the gross anatomy of cerebrum. So this is the cerebrum. We have human brain have 2 hemispheres: the right cerebral hemisphere and the left cerebral hemisphere. These 2 hemispheres are divided by the superior longitudinal fissure. And this elevated structure is known as gyrus. This is gyrus, or gyrus, and this is sulcus. Gyrus and sulcus. What are the structure of cerebrum looks like? Okay, it consists of the gray matter, the outer layer, which is the gray matter, and the inner layer, which is the white matter. The gray matter is composed of neuron, of cell bodies, the cell body of neuron, okay, while the white matter is recognized by the presence of myelinated. Okay, these are different different lobe of the cerebrum. Is frontal lobe and parietal lobe. The frontal and parietal lobe is divided by central sulcus. Okay, and then we have the temporal lobe, which is divided by the Sylvian temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and frontal lobe. There is a Sylvian fissure that's separating these two cerebral lobe, and posteriorly there is occipital lobe. Okay, some a very simple, very easy function of the different lobes of the cerebrum. The frontal lobe is involved in thinking, planning, short-term memory. The parietal is mainly sensory, touch, smell, taste, while the occipital is related to visual activity, and temporal lobe is memory and some auditory part of sensory. And okay, other than that, frontal, parietal, temporal, and parietal, vestibular lobe, there is insular lobe. Insular lobe is hidden inside. When you remove this Sylvian fissure, you see the insular lobe. And there is limbic lobe, located deeper in the deeper structure of the cerebrum, limbic lobe. Okay, diencephalon. Okay, the second part of the brain is the diencephalon. So it consists of thalamus, okay, the thalamus, and the hypothalamus, the subthalamus, and the epithalamus. All right, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, subthalamus, and epithalamus. Okay, you will have another lecture regarding the diencephalon later. In the brainstem, this is the brain stem. So not including thalamus, this is the brainstem. Okay, the brainstem consists of midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. That acts as a relay center connecting the cerebellum to the spinal cord inferiorly, and it's performed many automatic functions such as breathing, heart rate, body temperature, wake and sleep cycles, digestion, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, and swallowing. Cerebellum, last part, it functions to coordinate muscle movement and also maintain posture, important for balance. Okay, I already explained about how you divide the nervous system anatomically and functionally, the somatic nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and different major parts of brain based on the anatomical location and function, and the embryological development of the brain, cerebrum, the encephalon, brainstem, and cerebellum. Now we move on to the functional area of the brain. Okay, as you know, this is the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe and the parietal lobe is divided by the central sulcus. Okay, there is a gyrus, which is gyrus that is located anterior to the central sulcus. They are known as primary motor area. And posterior to the central sulcus, there is primary sensory area. Motor they are divided by the central sulcus. And then there is also parts of the frontal lobes that involve in speech. It's written speech or motor speech. And then you have the temporal lobe, which involve in auditory. Is receiving area here, association area here, and this is the speech comprehension area. So this is Wernicke's area. So when a person which is having stroke, okay, when the blood supply to this area is compromised, that person won't be able to understand what other people around him or her see. Okay, this is the primary sensory area. And as usual, this is the visual receiving area of this possible. Okay, the function of cerebrum in general. Cerebrum in general, they are involved in the higher function like interpreting, touch, vision, and hearing, speech, reasoning, emotions, learning, and fine control movement. All right, these are the right and the left cerebral hemisphere. Both of them have their own what we call that functions. For the left hemisphere, this is usually dominant hemisphere because sensory stimulus from the right side of the body is actually controlled by the left hemisphere, which is location of the sensory stimulus is in the left hemisphere. It's control the motor of the right side of the body and involve speech, language, and comprehension, analysis and calculation, time and sequencing, recognition of words, letter, and number. And for the right hemisphere, this is involve sensory and motor of the left side of the body, creativity, spatial ability, context and perception, and recognition of places and objects. Okay, same slide. The right, the function of the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Okay. So if the injury involves of either side of the brain, that person will have this difficulty. So the left side of the brain is injured. It will cause difficulty understanding spoken and written language. And difficulty in expressing spoken and written language. So language is mainly the left brain. Changes in speech, memory will be slightly impaired or impaired. And then for the right side, there will cause impairment in attention, memory issue, loss of big picture thinking, altered creative or muscle perception. Music perception. Okay, now we move on to the types of white matter in the cerebrum. The white matter is the axons, which carry, there are three types of white matter. It can be projection fibers, pink color, projection fibers, and there is commissural fibers and the association fibers. Projection fibers carry ascending and descending tract to and cerebral cortex, brainstem, and spinal cords. The example of the projection fibers can be internal capsule, coronary internal capsule, or coronary radiator. And the commissural fibers connecting the right and the left cerebral hemisphere. Yeah, these are the example of commissural fibers: corpusculum, anterior commissure, posterior commissure, habenular commissure, fornix. And association fibers is the fibers that connecting various cortical region within the same cerebral hemisphere. So if it is the right hemisphere, the connection is within the same hemisphere, within the right hemisphere. All right, okay, this is the one of the example of the fibers, the projection fibers. You can see the fibers that from that passing that descending and ascending from the cerebrum. Descend or ascend to different kind of structure in the brain and eventually to the spinal cord. Okay, and then you have the commissural fibers. This is the commissural, one of the example of the commissural fibers. which is the corpus callosum, connecting the right and the left hemisphere. There are many types of example of the right matter in cerebrum. One of it is corpus callosum. So corpus callosum is a mass of nerve fibers that connect the similar areas in each of cerebral hemisphere. Functionally, the corpus callosum is the main neural pathway between the two hemispheres. The main neural pathway between the hemispheres. So the corpus callosum can be there is different parts of corpus callosum. There is the splenium of corpus callosum, the trunk, the genome, and the rostrum. Okay, another picture showing the corpus callosum and different other type of commissural fibers like anterior commissure, habitual commissure, posterior commissure. Okay. And now we move on to the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia are a group of structures found deep within the cerebral hemisphere. So a basal ganglia can made of the caudate nucleus, the putamen, the globus pallidus, substantia nigra, and subthalamic nucleus. Basal ganglia basically its function is to facilitate movement and inhibit movements, subconscious control of skeletal muscle tone, and there are some diseases that involve in degeneration of the basal ganglia tissue, like Parkinson's disease. I believe you know the Parkinson's disease. It is due to degeneration of dopaminergic neuron in the substantia nigra. And another one is Huntington disease. The neurons that project to the globus pallidus degenerate. Okay, I can show you this how the Parkinson's disease look like. These concerns have very that the movement is not smooth. Okay, in Huntington disease, the movement is they cannot control it. Okay. Look at that. I can control the movement of different parts of the body. Okay, now the last is the limbic system. Limbic system. Anatomically, the limbic system, the limbic structure includes the subcallosal. Subcallosal. And then the cingulate gyrus, the parahippocampal system, the hippocampal formation. Okay. And then the amygdala, the mammillary body, and the interior thalamic nucleus. So what is the function of limbic system? They mainly control the emotion, behavior, and memory. Okay. So this hippocampal memory. And then the mammillary body, cingulate gyrus, subcarousel. Another one is the amygdala. Okay. I think that's all for the basic, very basic introduction about the gross anatomy of the nervous system. I wish you all the best and thank you for hearing this audio lecture.